gone at the back.
Sorted out.
Right, I welcome everyone to the full council meeting, including members, officers and any members of the public who may be in attendance remotely. The meeting is live streamed and recorded, and the staff may use body-worn cameras within the building. Data collected during these recordings will be processed and retained in accordance with the council's data retention policy. The recording of the meeting may be added to the council's website. The following staff are in attendance: Chief Executive, Monitoring Officer, Democratic and Electoral Service Manager. There are no scheduled tests of the fire alarm, and if the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly, use the door signs as fire escapes and assemble in the car park at the front of the building and wait for instructions. If there is anyone in attendance that might require assistance in evacuation of the building, please make themselves known. Thank you both. I invite the Chief Executive to give apologies.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. We've received apologies from Councillors Monique Bonney, Lloyd Chapman, Roger Clark, Simon Clark, Shelley Cheeseman, Alistair Gould, Alex Eyre, Elliot Jays, James Hunt, Claire Martin, Tara Noy, Ashley Shield and Mark Tucker.
Are there any others? No. Do members have any other interest to declare? No. Agenda item 4, Mayor's announcements. I'll try and keep this short. In June, we had the pleasure of attending Demelza Open Gardens. The event was to reopen the Len Goodman tree, and that was opened by his son James. The tree is a lovely thing to look at, and each leaf is individually put on the tree from the children that have sadly passed away. So it was very emotional. Then in July, we had a funny day. In the morning, we went to McDonald's to reopen the one at Bobbin because it had been refurbished at a cost of £1 million. So obviously they're doing well. They even laid out a red carpet for us, which was very strange. But they never offered us any food. I suppose they couldn't afford it. And then in the afternoon was a total different thing altogether. We went to the High Sheriff of Kent's garden party at Elmley Nature Reserve. And it's beautiful in there, the barn and everything. It was fantastic. And then we went to the Not Forgotten garden party. That was all the service people. And it was wonderful to meet all the veterans. Last Saturday, we went to the Swale Stroke Group, their 15-year anniversary, and it was lovely to meet and talk to all the people who have suffered over the years, but they have so much backing. So it was wonderful to see that something's going on like this in Swale. And then yesterday, I had a radio interview at Sheppey FM, community radio. That was very interesting. I don't know whether any of you catched it, but hopefully I'll come across not too bad. I've got future events. I've got the Mayor of Maidstone's garden parties. There's a lot of garden parties. The Mayor of Swanley 1812 firework night. That should be interesting. East Church Parish Garden Awards. and Sheerness Seaside Festival and Carnival. I've got a load more, but I'm not going to say anything more about that. And I would like to thank my Deputy Mayor, Councillor Andrew Harrison, for attending the events on my behalf that I couldn't attend. Right, that's the announcements. I've got one other thing. A thank you to Kelly Mehmet, Environmental Contract Manager. Kelly leaves us at the end of August after 26 years of service. Starting under the apprenticeship scheme in 2000, she undertook several administration roles over the next decade, before picking up the waste team in 2010. By 2017, she was waste manager and had overseen the team ever since. There won't be many of you councillors that haven't had pleasure of speaking to Kelly. Her passion to solve problems and help the council to deliver the best service possible to residents is thoroughly appreciated. She has taken the opportunity to move. She has taken the opportunity to move industries, and I'm sure we all wish her well, and in completing her new venture. The chair of the Environmental Service and Climate Change Committee will take the opportunity to present her with some flowers on her last day at the reorganisation of a service to the council. End of message. Thank you very much. Questions submitted by the general public. There are no questions. Questions submitted by members. There are no questions from members. Leader statement. I've got to be careful here. I will ask the leader to read the statement, and then I will ask the leader of the opposition groups to respond in the usual way. Following that, I will invite other members to respond to the leader's statement. Group leaders are invited to speak at 3 minutes. This item has an overall time limit of 30 minutes. I will seek to respond from members across the council political groups, aiming for a broadly balanced representation. This may mean that I divert from the order in which members had indicated they wish to speak. Can I please remind members that response must be to the issues raised by the leader? I invite Councillor Tim Gibson to give a verbal statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and you got it absolutely spot on. Thank you. Swirl stands at a defining moment in its history. How we work together and with others will shape not only how we navigate the changes in local government, but the legacy we leave for future generations. Before moving on, I would like to acknowledge the tragic death of former MP Anne Widdicombe. Whatever our political views, the loss of someone who has dedicated so much of her life to public service is deeply, deeply saddening. On behalf of myself, and I hope everyone in this chamber, I extend our sincere condolences to her family, friends, and all those who knew and worked alongside her. Mr. Mayor, our recent work reflects a clear ambition to leave a legacy of stronger communities, protected environments, and high-quality local services. A key example is the future of Barton's Point Coastal Park. Detailed ecological surveys have confirmed that the lake supports a rare ecosystem because of its unique mix of fresh and salt water. That evidence was rightly shaped our plans. Rather than pursuing development that could threaten this special environment, we're taking a balanced approach that protects nature while enhancing the park through improved facilities, outdoor learning opportunities, and aspirations for green flag status and continued support for community events. It is an investment that will protect one of the world's most treasured natural assets for generations to come. A further highlight was attending a recent groundbreaking ceremony at Cockleshell Walk in Sittingbourne, alongside our Deputy Mayor and councillor colleagues, both past and present. This landmark development, supported by Homes England, will provide high-quality homes for local people and marks an important step in delivering much-needed affordable housing across our borough. Every home will be let at social rent, giving local families access to secure, genuinely affordable homes. It's an excellent example of what we can be achieved through strong partnership working, and I look forward to welcoming the first residents there. Another important milestone is the completion of our community governance review. The government has confirmed that Swale will form part of the 4 unitary or 4B option for the local government reorganisation alongside Ashford and Folkestone and Hythe. While each district has its own identity, we share many opportunities and challenges around housing, growth, infrastructure and our coastal and rural communities. And I look forward to working constructively with colleagues to shape a new authority that delivers excellent public services while preserving the unique character of each area. This makes our community governance review even more important. Following consultation with more than 2,300 residents, we're proposing changes that reflect local identities, including new parish councils where there is support, sensible boundary changes and recognising where proposals such as City-born Town Council did not command sufficient support. I also recently wrote to the Minister on behalf of the Council regarding the Government's proposed planning reforms. While we recognise the need for new homes, they must be matched by infrastructure, public services and environmental protections. We continue to ensure that Swale's voice is heard. We've also continued to make excellent progress in our environmental services. Residents increased their use of our food waste collection service by 41% over the last year, the highest increase anywhere in Kent. More than 1,100 tonnes of additional food waste have been diverted, generating renewable energy, supporting local agriculture and improving recycling. And I thank our residents for embracing the service. Mr Mayor, I also want to update members on 2 issues that cause understandable concern in this chamber. Firstly, the continued disruption on Sheppey Crossing. A joint letter signed by our group leaders has been sent to National Highways, making clear our united view that urgent action is needed and will continue to press for improvement that our residents and businesses deserve. Secondly, following the recent water supply and wastewater issues across the borough, I wrote to South East Water and Southern Water seeking assurances on resilience and future investment. And I welcome the full response from South East Water and their offer to meet with the Council. And I'll continue to press Southern Water for a full response and the assurances that our residents rightly expect following the holding response that I received from them earlier this month. Before I conclude, I'd also like to congratulate the England team on a tremendous World Cup campaign. They may not have brought the trophy home this time, but they brought the country together. And I hope that the same spirit of teamwork is something that we can all aspire to in this chamber. Mr Mayor, our priorities remain clear: delivering excellent services, protecting our environment, strengthening our communities and ensuring Swale's voice continues to be heard during this period of significant change for us. Together, we're not simply responding to change, we're helping to shape the future of Swale with confidence, ambition and determination. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. I invite Councillor Lloyd Bowen to give his response to the statement.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and thank you to the leader for his statement. A lot there to actually go over. First of all, I agree with you completely about the Sheppey Crossing and the bridge. Far too much inconvenience and time has been lost because of the problems there. On a very loose connection relating to a bridge, I also welcome Helen Whately's work in terms of trying to bring a new crossing for the pupils of the Abbey School along the A2 and the work that she started on then. I think that is needed. Local government review, totally agree that it is a game changer. People have been saying, and I've seen some of the comments, but we haven't got the transport links to Ashford and Folkestone. Yeah, that is absolutely true. But not that many people actually physically come to these council offices nowadays in comparison to what they used to do. A lot of the business is now via the telephone and via online, so the actual number of need to go to the council offices isn't reliant, I don't think, that much on transportation. And it was, surprisingly, slightly, I must admit, the preferred option was what we as a council chose, despite what the Sittingbourne and Sheppey MP disagrees with that. Nice to know he's in touch with his people and local communities. And I agree with you, it is the legacy which we must leave, that we do not put this council into thanks, but we're done, doors are shut, we've got nothing left to give, ta-da. We cannot do that. Anne Widdecombe, whether you liked her or didn't like. She wore her heart on her sleeve. You knew where you stood with that sort of politician, and there's not many of them. Well, there's one less now that of that ilk. Whatever our differences and whatever our beliefs, we must, above all else, make sure that we work through them in a compassionate, decent, understanding manner, rather than poisonous methods which we have been seeing. I'm not saying for a second that was what the cause was, but we are seeing too many incidents where differences are spilling over to beyond the acceptable. Planning reforms. Thank you for raising that. At the LGA conference a couple of weeks ago, and Councillor Perkin was in the chamber when I said asked a question about this. The MP at the time, Stephen Reid, was talking about it, and I can quote him, and he said, "There is too much power held by too few." And yet he brings these planning reforms in, which actually puts more power into the hands of one. That is not too much power in the too few. That's actually, yes, I put it into one person. So I think the Labour government really needs to look at that. And I asked a question to the Shadow Secretary of State for that, and that's something which he said he would review and hopefully reverse, because it is unwise and undemocratic, undermining the power of local councils. But now he has gone. So who knows what the future may lead, which hopefully, in terms of local government review, isn't going to be that much of a delay. Now we know where we're going, whether we like it or not. We need to work towards that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. I invite Councillor Mike Baldock to give a response to the statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I would like to echo what was said about the appalling murder of Anne Widdecombe. As Councillor Bowen said, the nature of debate over the last few years has turned hostile, and it is something that we all ought to be reflecting on. We also ought to remember that Anne Widdecombe was a MP for Maidstone, our neighbouring area, although of course they didn't want to join us. And she had a significant role in what happened in Kent for a long period of time. And I thank the leader for mentioning that. I'm taking a slight liberty here, but I'd also like to pay tribute to Kelly Memmott, because she's been a really good officer. And I think this actually reinforces just how important apprenticeships are. And she came here as an apprentice, and she left with a whole load of achievements behind her and qualifications to take forward. And it's welcome that the new Prime Minister, who walks on water at the moment, has again reaffirmed the importance of apprenticeships. And I hope that we start actually seeing some real positive developments on that, because one of the worst, well, it wasn't one of the worst, but it's amongst many worst things that the Blair government did, and some good things, I'm not being horrible. But this idea that you had to have a university education is something that we really need to revisit. Apprenticeships, technical schools, learning trades, learning on the job. These are things that we need to be looking at. These are the things we need to be bringing back, not saddling young people with £50,000 worth of debts. LGR. Yes, we have found that of the least worst options we have got, of all the dreadful options, we have the least worst. That is possibly the only slight silver lining on that very dark cloud of LGR. And as Councillor Bowen said, it was noble to see our local MP rushing in, defying the council as usual and calling on the minister to think again, even though we had all actually indicated that was our preference. But he knows better. He wants to urbanise Sittingbourne, he wants to urbanise Swale and make us an extension of the metropolis. We don't want it. Roll on when he comes up for re-election. Just saying that. Yeah, football, brilliant. I've supported Charlton for years, so it's nice to actually have something to cheer. LGR, I'll go back to LGR for a minute. Yeah, I hope there isn't a delay. I don't like it.
Time, councillor.
I think it would stop, but we cannot be a zombie council for too much longer. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I invite Councillor Hannah Perkins to give a response to the statement.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'd also like to obviously send our condolences to the friends and family of Anne Widdicombe, who did spend a lot of her life dedicated to public service and very sadly will end up on Jess Phillips' list of women who were murdered by men this year. So my thoughts go out to her family and her colleagues. LGR. So obviously we'd rather that LGR wasn't happening, and we're pretty disappointed that the government have ignored the people of Faversham and their own sensitive place within this discussion. But we do have to now work really hard to make sure that the residents are at the centre of everything that we do over the next year or so. I don't think we will be a zombie council. I think we need to work really hard to end Swale well and to leave with a legacy, and that everybody in this room is going to be really key to doing that. So I think there is hope to be had in the sad ending of our council. I do worry about the accessibility of the new council, not just for residents but for councillors. I think it is going to be incredibly difficult for a diverse range of people to be able to be elected to the new unitary, given the huge geographical space between settlements and the lack of transport infrastructure links between all of our various different places. So yes, I'd rather it wasn't happening, but it is, so here we are. I want to thank the leader for the 2 letters that he has sent to ministers. The planning reforms, to my mind, are an absolute centralising nightmare. Angela Rayner has met with developers recently and just asked them to build. I have some sympathy around the fact that we do need to build a heck of a lot of social housing. That is something that the country is desperate for. But she has ignored that developers have said there isn't the labour market for that at the moment. More with the new legislation, we are seeing voices taken away from local people and local democracy being kind of run roughshod by Whitehall, which I don't think is acceptable. In Faversham just this week, we had a massive slap in the face when our neighbourhood plan that we worked for 5 years on was completely disregarded by the Secretary of State in the judicial, and Faversham Town Council lost its judicial review, which was very disappointing for everybody involved. In terms of water, I think we continue to see the absolute horrors of sewage being continually pumped into our waters, and also not being able to have fresh water as well. So we need to really take in to account the failings of the current water monopolies and bring that back into public use. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Perkin. I invite Councillor Richard Palmer to give a response to the statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think all's been said about Anne, and it was a very tragic event. And I think as an MP, she touched a lot of people, and it didn't matter what party they were from. I've had people who've contacted me, and actually when I worked in the ambulance service, I used to work down at Maidstone Ambulance Station. And there was a chap there, we used to call him Red Ken. I don't know why, but he was mad keen on a certain particular party. But when an election was coming up and I was talking to him, he turned around and said, I don't vote for my party, I vote for Anne, because she gets things done in Maidstone. She looks after people and she cares about the things. And that's what you hear consistently about Anne, and it was such a tragic event. So moving on to LGR, yes, I think the leader's right, and Councillor Baldock. We may not be happy with it, but we've got to work to get the best solution for the people that we're likely to represent or may represent in the future. And yes, with August coming, let's hope Sheppey Bridge can survive, particularly with the planned gasworks in Iwade. Otherwise, it could be a very interesting summer around this part of Sittingbourne. And with Kelly, yes, I think we all probably know her, certainly during the bin the new bin contract, and the work and the effort she put in to try to get everything sorted, fixed and achieved. So thank you for that, and that's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. I invite Councillor Terry Thomas to give a response to the statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like to echo the points of condolences to Anne Widdecombe family, and everyone should be able to live free from violence, and how we can reduce that. When it comes to local government reform, it could be an opportunity now to deliver better, I don't know whether we should say that, but more concise services. Working through from coast to coast could be interesting. Great to hear as well about natural protections, understanding at Barton Point did a survey and moved forward with understanding it as a different project, which is great to see. Love to see more of that enhancement of natural things. Good to see the start of social housing as well. Hopefully we'll be able to bring in more and more of that with local projects. And as to planning reforms, well, we need a lot of planning reforms. I keep going on about it all the time, but let's hope we can. And as for the decentralisation, as quite a lot of other councillors have said, it feels as if we're losing power rather than gaining it. So maybe with the local government reform, we can try and get some of that back. Great to have such a take up on food waste. I think that's brilliant. Let's hope we can try and spread that out through other recycled things and try and reduce plastic use, or even the purchase of it in the first place would be great, as well as other packaging materials. And great to hear that you've had a meet with South East Water. Let's see what that brings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Thomas. I invite other members to give a response to the statement.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much to the leader for highlighting some really good work that's happened around environmental projects in the borough between the last meeting and this meeting. Very much want to highlight the community input that those really interested members and members of the public have put into looking after their local communities. There was a news item that just broke today, actually, of a potential current investigation into South Eastern Water. And I do believe that the Environment Committee are asking our water companies to come to meetings and members' briefings to give us an accurate representation of how they feel that they are actually serving the communities that pay them for a service within our local communities. But I just want to take a moment to highlight that those members who have been having issues around water runoff and water going into our oceans in our borough might actually want to follow that story in the local news of interest. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Worcester. Councillor Ben Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will start by echoing the condolences to the family and friends of Anne Widdecombe, regardless of which party or what your politics are. You never want to see that for anybody, and certainly stood up for Maidstone and for wider Kent area far more than several others do. I wasn't going to stand up tonight, but as soon as Cockleshell Walk appears in there, I feel I have to. It is a long time coming. And thank goodness that we are finally at the stage of groundbreaking. Fingers crossed that the development runs on time, on budget, and delivers those homes before it's somebody else standing there at the unitary, from the unitary. Hopefully it's still us that are handing that first set of keys out. It has been a long project, and it's been a project that couldn't have been achieved without cross-party working from across the whole chamber, and the hard work and dedication of officers. So I want to be on record of putting that thanks in to the whole of our housing team and to those in our property team as well. If they didn't do their bit, we wouldn't be able to do our bit. So a huge thank you on that front. Also, I'll be a bit adjacent on bridges and on MPs. I do find it very entertaining that those at authorities that are slightly above us or in different places do tend to have a habit of saying what an achievement they've had for doing something when the graft is being done by councillors either at our level or at county level. I don't recall seeing the MP for Faversham and Mid Kent in the room when we were trying to design the new crossing point for the Abbey School. Certainly I was, and certainly Councillor Hook from KCC was, along with others. And equally for Mr McKenna, he wasn't in the room when we discussed what our opinion was on LGR. Kev, we'll just call him Kev, the MP for Sittingbourne and Sheppey, wasn't in the room when we made our decision either. So perhaps rather than taking credit for what we do, they would like to attend those meetings first.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Ashley.
Yes, I know. Maybe I should just whisper it and then you'll all want to know what I'm saying, wouldn't you? Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. I really welcome the progress on the new approach to Barton's Point. I think it's a long time coming, and obviously those of us on the Economy and Property Committee and colleagues on the Environmental Services Committee read with interest the biodiversity report, just showing how unique that space is, and the green flag ambition for that is exactly the right one. So it's great that the leaders highlighted that today, because having a green flag park like that is something the Isle of Sheppey certainly deserves. And on that, I would like to ask the leader whether he would share my congratulations to Milton Creek Country Park for once again achieving that prestigious award, and share my thanks to officers, the park ranger and the volunteers in the Friends of Milton Regis Country Park for all the work they've done to make sure that was possible.
Thank you, Councillor Wise. Councillor Tony Winklis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. LGA, I think it's long overdue. I think it makes far more sense to have the whole lot under one umbrella. The situation I've had since I've been representing on Smart Borough Council, we have had situations where we have to go to various different offices at this end to get things done, and basically to go to KCC as it's been to get other things done. So I think it's a great improvement to get it under one umbrella. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wise. Councillor Angela Harrison. I do apologise.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's very difficult to be seen from over here. I hate to say this, but I agree with Councillor Baldock with his comments on apprenticeships. I've always been of this view. University is right for some people, and 50 grand around your neck is fine for some people, but we got well out of the habit over the past 20 years of actually doing proper careers advice. Hopefully this is something that the new councils can take up. Proper careers advice for young people, and one of the things is apprenticeships, and those Cockleshell Walk houses. There will be less in the future, not because there isn't the money, not because there isn't the planning permission. There's permission for over 1.1 million homes in this country, but it is getting more and more difficult to get electricians, plumbers, even builders. And that's really where we need to focus our efforts, because, you know, if you've been through all the angst of losing on planning permission, it's gone through. They've got the permission. I always say they're banking it till the prices go up, but I could be wrong. But if they want to start, they're going to have a problem because there aren't the professionals there to actually do the work. So, you know, going forward, I hope that those people who have some say in this careers and apprenticeships in the future will be pushing that the sort of trades that we desperately need in this country. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. Again, I do apologise. No one. I invite Councillor Tim Gibson to respond to the members' comments. Oh, sorry.
Thank
Sorry,
you,
Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, as was echoed earlier, I wasn't going to speak this evening, but I feel that I really should. I had the great pleasure of meeting Anne Widdicombe on a number of occasions, and she even graced this chamber many years ago at one of our full council meetings. She was that interested in Swale. On a serious note, she was. The other part relates to the combination of apprenticeships and bridges. I totally endorse the apprenticeship model. I came through that myself. It brings skills, it brings a huge amount of investment into people, and it gives you the ability to diversify and challenge your own ambitions and roles. Whilst being an apprentice, you undertake pieces of work, and those pieces of work are monitored and scrutinised by, in my case, a skilled engineer. When we look at the bridge, one has to say that whoever is going to take responsibility for the Sheppey crossing has failed on a number of major issues with regards to scrutiny and monitoring the quality of workmanship. I hate to say, Mr. Mayor, that I don't think we've seen the last of that, as everybody that travels over that bridge regularly will know that there are 4 points of contact and each point does jolt your vehicle. But again, I echo the fact that deepest sympathy to family and friends to Anne Widdicombe. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. No one else? I invite Councillor Tim Gibson to respond to the members' comments.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as you called me Gibson, I think I will. I guess there's a lot of consensus here this evening, which is really, really good to hear. And it just shows some of the cross-party stuff that we've got going on in this chamber. But a few highlights there, the planning reforms, too much power to too few. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right to highlight that. And then, Councillor Baldock, you mentioned Kelly Memmott, and it'd be really remiss of me not to put on record my thanks for the efforts that she's given to me personally with a lot of issues that I've had, including stopping people delivering from Faversham rubbish and refuse and put it on my drive during the disasters that we had. So I really appreciated that. And whenever I say, Councillor Baldock say, I'm not being horrible, I know full well he is. But on this occasion, it didn't seem to be. And I, like him, hope again that there is no delay. I hear everything that Councillor Perkins said in terms of the neighbourhood plan. Sometimes you wonder what's the point of all those hours and hours of work that appear for nothing. Councillor Thomas, you mentioned social housing, and I think Thomas, oh dear, I've got. You don't mind, Mr. Mayor, do you? Making the odd mistake.
No, if I get it wrong, so can you.
Yeah, and social housing, and it is so important. It's just something we were in desperate need of. So I really, like Councillor Martin said, I really do hope it comes to fruition, and we see it before we become a unitary authority. And Councillor Wise, you mentioned Barton's Point. It's magnificent. And will I join you in congratulating Milton Creek Country Park? Of course I will. Fantastic. And apprenticeships. And I agree with Councillor Booth. I came through that route in the steel industry, was electrical engineer, and then sadly made redundant. Tried like hell to get another job, couldn't, and I couldn't even get a proper job, so I joined the fire service. 30 years later, but the point I'm making is a lot of those skills that I learned in that apprenticeship were so transferable into the fire service and some of the things that we did. And Councillor Harrison, yes, we need electricians, we need plumbers, we need all those skilled workers, but we also need decent fly swatters. Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for tolerating me, and I'll see you at the next meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Right, we now move on to agenda item 8, motion, the future secondary school provisions on the Isle of Sheppey. A motion on the future secondary school provisions on the Isle of Sheppey has been received and is set out in the agenda. This item has a time limit of 30 minutes. Councillor Leanne Moore, I invite you to propose the motion. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a shame really to have to sort of almost 1 year later be standing here saying the same thing as last year, but this motion slightly differs. At the most recent councillor and resident forum on the island, we had one of the deputy director of education from KCC come to explain the situation on the things that was going on the island and in Swale with secondary provision. And I think it was quite shocking for most of us to find out that although the children this year had not been sent to Faversham and further, or there was only a few, if any, that there is still no guarantees for the forthcoming years. I think for the next following intake, so not starting in September, starting in the following September, there's Lee Academy has agreed to sort of, I think, provide one bulge class, which will still lead to 30 places not being available for that year. But the following year is the really shocking one, which across Swale, we will be 5 form entries short, which works out, if you work out at 30 children per form entry, is 150 students short throughout Swale. That's not just on the island, that's throughout Swale. And this was what we was told at the residents forum. So I bring this motion here because we need to do something. We need to work together with KCC, with both the MPs, as we have 2 MPs covering the areas, because we've got Faversham and Sittingbourne and Sheppey. We need to speak to the secondary schools, the academies, because we know that they set their own admission policies and deal with a lot of it in-house as academies. But, you know, we need KCC to help us talk to them to discuss these admission policies and make them aware of what they're doing. We need to make the eastern end of the island accessible to schools on the island. We've got children travelling past 2, 3, 4 schools, travelling 27 miles one way to school. We've got families having to do, you know, a 50-mile round trip twice a day to get their children to school. You know, and we still have children from last year's intake that haven't got any places. There is still approximately 10 children at the eastern end of the island that haven't got school places, so have been out of school for a year. They have missed a whole year of their education. Mentally, what that has done to them, I can only guess. I can only speak as a parent myself of a child that has had to endure a year out of school. And, well, that's not the little girl that I knew a year ago. You know, she's had to endure so much, and she's not the only one. So we need to make sure every child, wherever they're from, whatever their background, has suitable access to education. You know, we cannot just say, well, the parents can't get them there, we're not going to fund it, tell them to walk or cycle, as the conversation was last year, 27 miles, you know, or hire a boat to get across the water. We can't keep doing this. We have so many houses being built and no more plans for schools, no more plans for spaces. This is only going to get worse. And these children are the ones that are going to be looking after the area. You know, we want them to thrive and flourish and, you know, maybe stand as the unitary councillors or MPs or Prime Minister, or, you know, tell them they can do whatever they put their mind to. But like without their statutory education, what hope have they got? Because they just feel left out. They feel forgotten about. These children don't feel cared about. Well, we're not at school now, so no one cares about us. Because the parents don't get any help and haven't had any help for the last year. So this isn't about blame or anything. This is requesting we come together as a community to help all the children in Swale.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Councillor Bowen, I invite you to second the motion and ask if you wish to speak now or reserve your right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, as a real life motion experience, but I will reserve my right and speak later. Thank you.
Right. An amendment to the motion has been received to support the accessibility requirements and assist members. Democratic Services has prepared a tracking change version of the amendment, which has been tabled and published on the Council's website. Councillor Richard Palmer, can you please confirm that the information in the tabled document accurately reflects the amendment you wish to move?
Certainly, Mr. Mayor. No, it really doesn't. It's quite confusing to look at. However, I'm quite happy to withdraw the amendment, and speak to the motion as it is laid there, if that's okay with you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Hey? Oh, we got a seconder for that.
Is the seconder happy that the motion happy?
Yeah, is the seconder happy?
Sorry? Are you happy with that? Yep.
The Chief Executive has circulated a paper from the Interim Deputy Director of Education from KCC, Graham Chapman. Craig Chapman. All right, where would you go now? Yeah. Yeah, Councillor Mike Whiting.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm speaking to support Councillor Leanne Moore on what I think is a really important motion for this council, a very important motion. We've discussed this issue so many times here. And Councillor Moore's right to say this is not about blaming. This is about understanding the issue, getting all of the relevant people round a table so that we can send a very strong message to government that something needs to change. Because it's government that sets the rules. KCC does have a duty to ensure that we have a sufficiency of places in the county. That's its job. That's its duty. But it has no levers to make that happen. It doesn't control planning. We do. It doesn't control the admissions criteria. The academies do. To some extent, it doesn't control funding, but it doesn't control the S106s either. It may ask for money, but it's down to this council and developers, and more often than not, down to the planning inspector, how much money the 106s can raise. So KCC is in a rock and a hard place. We're in a rock and a hard place. The parents, as we've heard, are in a hard place. And it's down to us, I think, to come together to get these people around the table so that we can collectively go to government and say, government, you now have to change this. It may be that the unitary authority, when it's born in a couple of years' time, will be able to control planning, will be able to control 106s, and will have that duty of sufficiency of places, and it all comes under one roof. But it still won't have enough money to do it. It won't have enough money to provide the places that we need. And the shocking figure of being 5 forms of entry short in a couple of years' time. Actually, to correct Councillor Moore, that wasn't across the whole of the borough. That was across Sittingbourne and Sheppey alone. That didn't include Faversham. So with the 5 secondary schools in Sittingbourne and Sheppey, will each have to find an additional form of entry to meet that need. And there simply isn't the money at the moment in the system to allow that to happen. So I think I'm supporting things fully. I hope that the recommendations that come out of this joint meeting are to go to government and say, you've got to stump up the cash, you've got to make this happen. And you've got to instruct the academies, because the Secretary of State can, you've got to instruct the academies to do the right thing, to create the places so that the people on Sheppey aren't travelling 27 miles to school, and that parents can have a reasonable expectation that their preferred choice of school will be the one that their child can attend. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. Councillor Tom Lunday.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I welcome this motion, and I'd like to thank Councillor Moore and Councillor Bowen for bringing it to this meeting. But it is very disappointing that we keep discussing this here, but nothing actually seems to get done about it. And the only people that are actually affected by it are children not getting it. I was at a meeting last night at the Island Forum, and we had an employment special. And one of the things we discussed was the biggest barriers to getting young people into work on the Isle of Sheppey. Well, if kids aren't getting a decent education, that is a slap bang, that's a barrier straight away. How can you expect a parent to take their child like a 27-mile trip there, 27-mile trip back, twice a day? They're not going to be able to work either at that point. This is an absolute disgrace. The kids then aren't going to be able to take part in like extracurricular activities, so there'll be no like football, netball, chess club, drama club. They're not going to be able to do that because it's just going to be too late for them getting back, on top of having to do all of their schoolwork. I think the most important part of the motion is, Councillor Whiting has touched on this, to ask the Leader of Swellborough Council to convene an urgent meeting, involving all the relevant bodies, because that's how this is going to get sorted. But I am a little bit worried because we've been trying to do this for over a year and still nothing has changed. I know, you said it's not about blaming people. It's not about blame. It's not about accountability, but it is about making sure that the right person pulls their finger out of their backside and actually gets this done, because children on the Isle of Sheppey deserve better than the situation that they're in and the situation that more children are going to be in the years to come if we don't sort this issue out. Please support the motion.
Councillor Dolly Worcester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarity, probably should have said at the start to the meeting, but I'm a governor for EKC on the island. Just before I make my comments, I thought that'd be useful. So I fundamentally disagree. This is about accountability, absolutely accountability, because at the moment, the only people being held accountable are parents and families, which is entirely unacceptable. So what I've done, just to make sure I'm clear on this, I've looked at Kent County Council's children missing from education. We have a duty to identify children missing from education in Kent, and where possible, we must also negotiate to support for them to make sure they get back into education. I can tell you that no family that I've spoken to has had relevant support to get their child back into education, especially those children who have been missing from education for a large amount of time. What has also been disappointing from KCC approach is that a local authority can request that the Secretary of State direct an academy to admit a child where the Fair Access Protocol has failed to secure a school place. That is from the government website. So just to re-identify that, on the particular application form, we have there is an expectation from the Secretary of State that the local authority and academy will work together and come to an agreement to ensure the admission of the child. To do that, the local authority and the academy must document the case for and against admission. The local authority must provide evidence that the academy has been consulted, setting out the academy's reason for refusal and the local authority's response. So, not that I'm saying that I'm pointing fingers, but there is quite clear evidence that the local authority is actually involved with this process. And I absolutely challenge the assumption that they couldn't do more, they've tried their best. Well, I'm sorry, but that is not good enough. And absolutely, we should be expecting everybody should be pulled together. We also should thank Swale Borough Council, because they are the ones that are pulling KCC back into these meetings. And from the area forum, where we did have attendance from an education officer from KCC, no, that promised meeting that they said that they would come back to me with has miraculously not occurred either. So absolutely get people around the table, but this is about accountability, and if we're not doing it for our children, then I would absolutely say, what are we sitting here for? They are not given a voice. We are their voice for them. And I would hopefully say that if we're looking in the mirror and saying that we're not pulling all the levers that we can, then we're really not doing our jobs. So absolutely, round the table, fully support the motion, but let's actually put the accountability where it's due. Yes, government, but absolutely, there are other parties in play as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Worcester. Councillor Richard Palmer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I quite agree. I think it's the children, Sheppey, who are suffering and missing out. And there are several things that affect this, and it's good to sit round the table and talk. And I feel that the villain of the piece is government. Ever since, in Tony Blair's era, they took the power away from the local authorities, and it's been eroded even more, and the school system has fallen to bits. But it's not just KCC to blame. It's not just the government. Swale Borough Council needs to own its own mess as well. The local primary school in Sittingbourne. Section 106 money for that. The trigger point was 150 houses. I've raised concerns with KCC, but KCC and the developer both wanted to move the goalpost to 75%, approximately 750 houses, but 450 houses. We may never see that primary school. But Swale Borough Council, the planning authority, agreed to it. You know the problems when you sit on the planning committee, whether it's GPs, whether it's highways. You can start saying no. You can start fighting for your residents and say no. You don't have to blindly sit there and say yes all the time, because it's like the children on Sheppey who suffer. It's an anomaly, because if you live in Warden, if you live in Laysdown, you're not in any catchment area for any school in Kent, because it's done by how the crow flies, by both academies. We were very happy at this council when there were 2 secondary schools came onto the island. Oasis Academy went and you had 2, but that led to a 60 places lost, from 390 to 330. And it was KCC who had to pick up the pieces when they, last year. Some things have gone on, some negotiations have gone on, but it's good to put pressure on. The government needs pressure. The MPs need the pressure. KCC needs the pressure. But look at yourselves when it comes to planning, when it comes to Section 106. It's all right delegating stuff to officers, but when they're signing away your school and it's affecting your children, you'll realise that the system isn't quite as good as it should be. So Swale needs to look at itself. I've challenged him with KCC some of the issues, and there are issues, and it's good to get round the table, and that's why I think the motion does need supporting. We can bring in loads of different things and put the blame on loads of different people. Maybe once we get to a unitary authority, we won't be passing the buck between planning and whoever the authority is, because the education...
Time, Councillor.
And we'll sit together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Palmer. Councillor Anne Kavanagh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I welcome this motion. I have listened the last year, Swale Borough councillors, especially those on the island, pushing for better school provision. Sadly, I've watched many KCC meetings online. I lead a very sad life. KCC, not bothered. So I'm sorry, I do pass the buck. We here tonight are Swale Borough councillors. We are not here with our other hat. It is appalling that only now, a year later, have they bothered to say something. And I would point you to what has been sent from KCC, the 5th bullet point. Local authority has a statutory duty under the Education Act 1996 to secure sufficient places across its area. I don't care how it does it, it should be doing something. We've got figures. What we need is action, not words. They've had long enough. I think it's appalling. And regarding primary school, I know there was going to be a school in Borden, a primary school. KCC didn't want to build it. So I spoke to the planning department and we got it changed so it wasn't cancelled completely. They've got the money. They need to do what is their statutory duty. So yes, like Councillor Worcester, I am pointing the finger because without that, KCC will do nothing.
Thank you, Councillor Kavanagh. Councillor Peter Mc.
Thank you, Mayor. Right, I started on this not last year, not the year before. The first letter I did on education, because I actually taught mathematics for 15 years at Minster College after the disastrous first school, the Sheppey School, where they didn't believe in anything except trendies. And the education system on Sheppey was absolutely destroyed. We had two of the finest technical schools in the country, which my father taught in. He taught in one of them, and they were destroyed. I was told by our previous MP, because I said, we must have a technical school back, and he said, oh, you won't get that. Well, the first of these things, and I've got evidence here, that I first took it up in the 25th of March, 2011. That's 15 years ago. Now, it's the responsibility of the Department of Education to provide the facilities. Okay, it might be subbed out to Kent or somewhere, but it's the Department of Education. And they're the people that have been grossly negligent to the people of Sheppey, quite frankly. I don't know anything about primary schools much. I'm a bit too old for that. But I did teach, obviously, in secondary schools. And I've got letters, copies of letters that I wrote to the minister at the time and all these things, trying to get them to actually do something. And I'm afraid the problem is the Sir Humphreys in Whitehall, frankly, are more interested in their salaries than solving a problem. You know, they're very overpaid, to my mind, and we need to be very hard on the department itself. Now, I know there may be some kind of loose thing. I'd like to look at the legislation, which actually says. So I'd like people who've quoted legislation to actually tell me the act and the section, and I will look at it, because I did work for a law firm 100 years ago as well. So I've got a bit of experience. So, but it is the Department of Education that are responsible, and we need to be really hard on them. They've been letting us down for decades, frankly. And I think, yeah, we can all work together and get what ought to happen. It's no good having children having to travel all these miles if they can find a place. Now, with 2 academies only, we had 4 schools on Sheppey, 4 secondary schools, two modern schools and 2 technical schools. And of course, all the grammar children, including my sister and my father, actually went to Sittingbourne, to Highstead and Borden. So we need to be hard on the department itself. They're the people we need to chase and get them here. I'll talk to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDonald. Councillor Karen Watson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I would also like to thank Councillor Moore and Councillor Bowen for bringing this motion to Council tonight. I know how passionate that Councillor Moore feels about education on Sheppey, but each one of us in this chamber should be feeling as passionate as Councillor Moore. We represent all our residents in this borough. That includes the children. We are representing the children. We should be their voice, not just the voice for the adults. Without that voice, they will not be heard. Education for Swale is managed by KCC. So let's stop passing the buck here, because the buck stops with you. The only way we can get this sorted is getting around a table. So we have got to have everyone there. We've got to have KCC, Swale Borough Council. We've got to have the academies. But I feel we should have representatives of the parents as well, because we can talk as much as we like about how we think it feels, but we don't really know unless we've been there, like Councillor Moore. And I really appreciate what you tell us, because you're going to give us the bold, hard truth, and that's what we need to hear. We must work together because education is so important when it comes to the future of our children. So we've got a number of children now on the island that are being homeschooled. I'm sure they are being homeschooled really well, but how do we know that? So we need the voices of their parents to be heard. And it's no good children from Sheppey spending sometimes hours when the crossing's down, going backwards and forwards to school. That's missed opportunities. That's missed time to do things within their local community. So, councillors, I'm really pleased that it's a shame this motion has had to come up again, but let's get it right now. We're going to be a unitary in the not too distant future. Let's get this right now. Let's be the bigger people here. Let's look after those children out there, those families out there that haven't got a voice. Let's give them that voice. Let's get this sorted. Let's get this sorted now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. We've running out of time, but there's quite a few who wish to speak, and I'm prepared to go on with that. So next in line is Councillor Booth.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I welcome the motion put forward by Councillor Moore and seconded by Councillor Bowen. And I, like many people here this evening, can read the room, and you can follow people's commentary and you can see where, hopefully, it's going to go. But it's worth remembering some history, Mr. Mayor. There are two other councillors in the chamber this evening that stood there with me at Kent County Council when this very item came up several years ago. And the item started by a comment that was brought up this evening, truancy. At the outgoing academy, on 3 events visited by an inspector, there was close on 50% truancy on that academy. So I look at it that this is a fantastic good news story, because we have 2 highly coming on performing academies which parents on the island want their children to go to. 3, 4, 5 years ago, parents were saying, I want my child to go off the island to Sittingbourne, to Faversham, to anywhere. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for that education. Now that's not the case. It's a complete role reversal, Mr. Mayor. There is responsibility to be taken, whether it's central government, whether that is Kent County Council, whether that is Swale Borough Council. But the academies need to take that as well. The academies were aware at day one there was a catchment and a draw from the island. It is bonkers, Mr. Mayor, that children are being sent from Sittingbourne to the island for their secondary education while pupils on the island are suffering. It is a joke. And it is now, when we are at this climax of change within Kent, that we absolutely bang the table and stamp the floor and say, enough is enough. We need the results and we need action to be taken now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Booth. Councillor Mike Baldock.
Thank you for extending the period of time we're allowed to talk then. Don't usually say that. First, I'd just like to thank Councillor Moore for her telling her experiences, because it actually brings it home in a way that numbers on a page don't. And listening to her really brought home the long-term impacts on some of our children. And that's something I hadn't really thought about, I'll admit. You know, I saw the rights, I saw the people being, you know, not getting what they should, but actually hearing the impacts of it was quite emotional. I said earlier that, yeah, I had a moan. There's things about Blair I didn't like. Well, academisation is the other one. This is at the root of this, and I know the Tories brought it only under Major, but it's a service. It needs to be accountable to the people, and it shouldn't be run in the way that it is. And until we can start tackling this academisation and actually bring some social responsibility back to education, we're going to keep having problems. And I want to address some of the points about point scoring. No, not point scoring, finger pointing. Yeah. We're going to talk about a local plan later, about a load more houses we're going to give the green light to in Sittingbourne and Sheppey and Faversham, the whole of Swale. And we're going to do it knowing that educational provision is going to fail to match up to all those new kids that'll be in those houses. But we'll still go ahead and do it. We'll still put our hands up. I won't, obviously, but the council will probably still put its hands up, vote for a local plan condemning more kids to the same misery. Because it's not planning's fault, but we get a 106 agreement, or we get an allocation that promises something to be delivered, I mean, it doesn't come forward. There is a site on Kemsley supposed to be opening a couple of years ago. It's KCC that are not getting down and delivering it. There is, and it's been mentioned a couple of times, a school in the unwanted development in Boredom, which Robert Jenrick gave permission to. Don't know where he is now. But they gave permission for that. There was supposed to be school provision. It's not happening. And who asked for it to be delayed? KCC. Yeah, our lot Swale shouldn't have agreed to the delay. They would probably have lost if it got challenged, but they should not have agreed to the delay. But KCC asked for it because they're not delivering the schools that are in the allocations and the planning permissions that go forward. There are a load of new houses planned. Really? I'm against it. I'm for the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I've got three more to do. Councillor Terry Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'm getting everyone wrong tonight, but you know who I mean.
I don't mind. I'm a bit of a cad anyway. I'd just like to bring up the rural scenario here. I've had constituents now come to me saying that they're now moved to an area rurally at a primary school in would have a primary school in Sheldwich, but they can't go to it. So they now have to travel. It's actually 12 miles to Tenham. This, thinking about it, having had the similar issue when I was young, does have an effect on the child, because all of a sudden you're taken out of where you know everyone to somewhere you don't know everyone. And a lot of this comes from the freedom of choice of school placement for rural. And what's happening is you get this bleeding of, if you like, sort of intelligence. So they then want to, when they interview and talk to people, they want the best child. That isn't what should happen. It should be the child that lives locally, that's part of that community, that should go to that school and be prioritised to that school. I think there needs to be a very much an overhaul of choice of schools. And there isn't a law demanding that they have to make a placement. There is a law that we have to supply education, but that could be a very long way away. And then this issue that they're then at a school, a primary school, that they don't actually know anyone there. When it then comes to the secondary school, that's exacerbated again, which is what I had. You know no one again. And so, of course, you get picked on, and so then and us starts to occur. We want to try and nip that in the bud and let people be educated within their local environment. So if there's anything we can bring that forward, that'd be great. And I do applaud Councillor Moore for bringing it forward about secondary education placements. It's dreadful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Angela Harrison, without the fly swat.
I was merely trying to attract your attention, Mr. Mayor. Okay, I just got a couple of points. I agree, Leanne. Couple of points. Firstly, it was Kent County Council, was it not, who agreed that, I'll agree that you can cut 30 places from each of your schools if you agree to run a school, wasn't it? Okay. Parental choice, I'm going to blame somebody here. Parental choice, because when I was on Kent County Council and did school appeals, I had 3 kids, 1 year, so it ended up 3 kids going from Rushington in a taxi paid by KCC past Queenborough School to Sheerness. And then there's kids in a taxi paid by KCC going from Sheerness up to Queenborough School because parental choice messed up the whole thing and it was a complete mess. Back in my day, you went to the local school. Mine happened to be at the top of the road. That was the way it was. Parental choice was only ever parental choice if you could afford it. It isn't really. The second one is Section 106. I've sat in this chamber subbing at a planning meeting. I can't remember who else was here. There was a few of you. To be told, oh no, KCC won't let you give 106 education money to the Sheppey schools because they're academies. It has to go to the mainland. Only all the mainland schools were academies. So what happens there? So we did have money to expand schools on the island, and it was chosen by KCC that it would be spent over on the mainland. So the third point, which is I most definitely agree to the meeting, but there was a regional education body, and I know when, not the last one, but the one before, local education officer, when the academies refused to send children, oh no, because they'll send the scores down. She went down to see the regional ed, and then she came back armed with their backing to say, you will be taken. No, okay, which of these send children are you going to take? And they were forced to take send children because the regional education people said so. So I would hope that if that body is still there, from the DFE, but regional, that they could be included in said meeting, because I think it would be a good idea. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Lastly, Councillor Ben Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Moore, for bringing this forward. It is very much appreciated, and you have my full support on it. There has been a lot of issues already covered, so I don't want to go over them where I can avoid it. Just on 106 terms and our responsibility, we do have to bear in mind that we are asked to collect the money. We do collect the money, and then it is down to the person that's asked for the money to spend the money. And when they say the school in North West Sittingbourne, actually, why don't you build the development the other way around, because we don't need the school for another couple of years, and the developer does that and then slows their build rate out because the market takes a bit of a dive, can't really take that blame to our planning committee or our planning officers. And I think it's insulting to our planning officers to suggest that they should be doing what KCC's job actually is. I think there's an awful lot of other issues as well. It's not just around parental choice, it's around league tables, it's around wasted money. I think the Abbey School in Faversham has now had a catering unit installed, ripped out, installed and ripped out again, purely because actually, no, we've got to focus on academic qualifications. We don't want technical qualifications, so you don't need that. You need the classrooms. And then actually, no, we need to have technical education again. So we'll put it back in. Same with hairdressing suites. The same with having provision for learning electronics or for learning building skills. We keep flipping the switch depending on who's in I would say who's in government this week, which party it is, but actually it's which minister you've got this week over the last 10 years. That's been the problem. We're ignoring the children. And actually, when you go back, since I've been on this authority since 2019, the first thing we said was we need to, if we want to improve Sheppey, if we want to make things better for the people on Sheppey, we have to have equal access to the opportunity of education. That was the first thing. That's why on the Levelling Up project, we wanted further education on Sheppey. It needs it, because that's the only way that you can help deliver from poverty, is to give people access to education. And at the moment, we're failing that. And it's not Swale's fault, but we're the ones that have got to be the big ones and say, come into the room, let's all get together, let's find a plan, find something that works for everybody, and make it so that children can attend a decent school, get a decent education, and not just the academic education, it is the social education that comes with those extracurricular activities. Being able to play a bit of rugby after school so that you actually develop those friendships and those bonds. These are also the same children that started their primary school education at a laptop or an iPad. We can't forget they spent a year having their education remotely. They're already at a deficit. We've got to make sure that that deficit doesn't perpetuate and expand. And the way to do that is what Councillor Moore has put forward, so it will have my full support.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Councillor Bowen to speak now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I am delighted to second this lived motion. This is not about politics. It's about ensuring that every young person in Swale has an access to good secondary schooling. It's about life. It's about prospects. Kent County Council's own commissioning plan tells us that there will be significant shortfall in secondary school places across Wales from 2026 onwards. It forecasts a deficit equivalent to around 5 forms of entry. That's not speculation or opinion, it's their own assessment of future demand. Families are travelling considerable distances because they cannot secure a place at a suitable local school. Children from the east end of the island are, as has been said, passing several schools on a daily long journey simply to reach the school they have been allocated. That places unnecessary pressures on pupils and parents alike, increasing travel costs, reducing family time and impacting children's well-being. And bluntly, to try and suggest that part of this is down to the planning committee and section 106 is purely deflecting, in my view. The issue is not only likely to become more acute as housing growth continues across Swale, new homes must be matched by investment in infrastructure. And that includes schools. If we fail to plan properly now, today's pressures will become tomorrow's crisis. And I take the point that was made earlier about having a representative of parents on this group. We've got one! So she's sitting there. Importantly, this motion is measured and constructive. It does not seek to dictate the solution to KCC. Instead, it asks for something entirely reasonable, a clear plan, a realistic timetable and a commitment to work together. By bringing together KCC, our members of Parliament, Academy Trust, school leaders and this council and parents, we can ensure that decisions are informed by local knowledge that the needs of our communities are properly understood. This is about giving parents confidence that their children will have access to local school, reducing unnecessary travel and ensuring that educational provision keeps pace with communities we are building. I hope members from all political groups can unite behind this motion. Investing in our young people is one of the most important investments we can make. And ensuring sufficient school places is fundamental to giving every child the best possible start in life. I say again, this motion is about life. It is about prospects. I commend the motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. Councillor Moore, as the proposer of the motion, do you wish to sum up the debate?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be very quick. It's very emotional hearing all the support, and I know I do. The families would can only appreciate all the support all the councillors are giving, because to know someone has got your back and is fighting your corner, it just makes you feel that you're not the only one. I've said it before in this chamber last year, but you know, there's nothing worse than feeling like you failed as a parent. And when your child can't get to school, that's what you feel. So just from my heart, thank you for everyone for your comments and support in this.
Thank you, Councillor Moore. Right, let's come to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
I think it's unanimous, you know.
Mm.
Just check any again.
Hey, any against? Any abstentions? That's carried unanimously. And hey? He didn't. Thank you. Anyway, I've decided as we've all a bit warm, we need a 10-minute comfort break. Thank you. Right. Agenda item 9, plan for X software approach to service charges. I invite the leader to speak and propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. On the 17th of June, the Policy and Resources Committee agreed to recommend to full council that Swelborough Council opt into applying a service charge to all fee-paying planning services to be delivered through a new digital platform called PlanX. This followed the award of £23,500 of funding for the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government to purchase a subscription to PlanX. PlanX provides local planning authorities with the ability to offer digital services to customers, giving more accurate and quicker responses to customer inquiries. The recommendations for the report are that members agree that the service charge for PlanX is applied in accordance with paragraph 2.9 of the attached report. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Bowen to second the recommendation and ask him whether he wishes to speak now or reserve his right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and unusually I'm actually going to choose to speak now, and I'm pleased to second this recommendation. At first glance, no one likes the idea of an additional charge. As councillors, we all recognise that applicants already pay significant fees, and any increase deserves careful scrutiny. However, I do believe that this report presents a sensible and pragmatic way forward. The purpose of PlanX, what a title, PlanX, is not simply to digitise an existing process. It's about providing a better service for our residents and businesses. It allows people to understand planning constraints affecting their property, receive more accurate information and navigate what is often a complicated planning system far more easily. That means hopefully fewer mistakes, better quality submissions and ultimately more efficient planning service for everyone. Importantly, this proposal has been made possible because the council has secured the £23,500 of government funding to implement the system. By opting into the service charge, we can use that grant to cover the first year's subscription and much, if not all, of the second year's costs, giving us a pathway towards making the platform financially sustainable without placing an ongoing burden on the council's budget. Happy news for Lisa. The additional charge is fixed at £48 and applies only to planning services where the council already charges a fee of £100 or more. At the same time, residents will continue to have access to free guidance services through the platform, helping many people understand that they need planning permission before they spend money on an application. So the report also is honest about the risks. It acknowledges that introducing the service charge may not be popular, go figure, but it concludes that the benefits, better access to information, improved digital services, greater efficiency and reduced pressure on officer time outweigh that additional cost. And I think that's a fair assessment. As councils continue to face financial pressures, we have a responsibility to embrace innovation where it improves services and represents value for money. And this proposal, I think, does exactly that. So I am happy to second. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bowen. I invite Councillor Baldock to speak.
Love it when we talk about software. PlanX, doesn't that sound ominous? Planks or PlanX. There's actually a 2015 indie comedy about a mob. But yeah, I suppose we better support this. Cheers.
Councillor Perkin to speak? No. Councillor Richard Palmer?
No, that's all right, Mr Mayor. I think it's quite clear.
Councillor Thompson?
Nothing to say, thank you, Mayor.
I open up the debate to members. Okay. Tim doesn't have to. No. All those in favour, please raise your hands clearly. Any against? Any abstentions? Two. Right, so that is carried. Thank you. Item 10, recruitment of independent person. I invite the Chair of Standards Committee, Councillor Angela Harrison, to speak and propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. This council did agree that we would extend the term of our 2 independent persons, and it's coming up again, but this council also asked us to look and find another one, making 3. We've looked and found another one, so there are 3 names before you this evening for you to approve for 3 years, or from September this year or until the cessation of Swale Council, whichever is the earlier. It would be the cessation of Swale Council. So I so propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harrison. I invite Councillor Hannah Perkins to second the recommendation and ask whether she wishes to speak now or reserve her right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation. I will speak now, but I have nothing more to add. Thank you.
Right, I invite Councillor Bowen to speak.
Carry on, Mr Mayor. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Baldock to speak.
Thank you.
I invite Councillor Richard Palmer to speak.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
I invite Councillor Thompson to speak.
No comment, thank Mr Mayor.
No one wants to speak. I open up the debate for members. Everyone happy? Right. I've lost the next page now. Right. Yeah, I invite the Chair of Standards Committee to respond if she wishes.
Nothing to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you very much. All those in favour, please raise your hands clearly. All those against? Any abstentions? No. That's carried unanimously. Thank you very much. Right. Item 11. Swale Community Governance Review, final recommendations. I invite the leader to speak and propose the recommendations.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's quite unfortunate that I stand to propose this one. I was hoping that somebody else would be doing it, but we anticipated that they would be in sunnier climes and not back in time. And of course, that person is Councillor Whiting. I just want to thank... Yeah, but I just want to speak first, and then I'll invite him, if I may, Chief.
Yeah.
I'd just like to pay tribute to the work that all of the group, burning midnight oil time and time again, day in, day out, pouring tirelessly over responses, agreeing disagreeably at times, and moving this forward. But now I'll defer to Councillor Whiting to propose it, actually. Thank you.
Councillor Whiting.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Leader, for those kind words. I just add also my thanks to the working group, the members of that group who burnt the candle at both ends on many occasions, going through the thousands of responses. And we said before we started, this was going to be a consultation where we would listen to what people said and we would act on what people said. And I believe we did. Between the first consultation and the second consultation, we made changes to our proposals based on what people had asked us to do. And again, we made further changes in the recommendations as they come to the council this evening, Mr Mayor. It has been a long process, but I think it's been a very worthwhile one. We took a decision quite early on that we were not going to limit it to certain areas, so where we knew that there was a call for some sort of change, but we'd open it up to the whole borough and ask everyone in the borough if they wanted to change where the arrangements where they lived. Many came back, and out of that were born the 23 proposals, that sit before the council tonight. They've been very well thought through, I believe, by the members. There have been arguments. We've discussed and we've come back to things time and time again in some cases. I can see the member for Grove Park and Borden over there nodding furiously. Grove Park was one of those areas where we had long discussions. Merston, of course, was another. But we came out with a settled view between us. And I think we agree pretty much unanimously on all 23. I won't say unanimously because I know that somebody, and probably my vice chairman, Councillor Baldock, who I also thank for the work he put in. I would just quickly say thank you, and more importantly, perhaps the work of the officers, to Steph, to Louise, and to the chief exec for her personal involvement in those many hours of meetings. So it's with great pleasure that I recommend and commend the recommendations to you, Mr. Mayor, and I hope that members will be able to support them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whiting. I invite Councillor Bowen to speak the recommendation and ask whether he wishes to speak now or reserve his right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll second the recommendation and reserve. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Baldock to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was a project, this whole CGR was a project that I've felt passionately about for a long time. So of my group, it was something that we wanted to see happen. Not quite the outcome we wanted. I'd like to thank the officers involved because I think they did a really good job. There was a lot of changes. There was some really intricate stuff that went on about this side of the road or that side of the road. I think we've got most of it right. I am saddened that we won't be recommending a Sittingbourne Town Council. I still think there is merit in perhaps going ahead and setting one up anyway, but I have tried that argument at PNR, and I have a feeling it will not get much success here either, so I think it is a tragedy. I think in years to come, people will be annoyed that the rest of Swale has local governance, but the majority of people who responded to this consultation wanted a lower level of local governance, but they are fearful that their identity is going to be swallowed up by unitarisation. I hope that in 5 years' time, the new body will be able to actually rerun this exercise and try again to see if there is an appetite in Sittingbourne, because there is so much that can be achieved by Sittingbourne Town Council that they're going to miss out on. There's, when you see what Faversham does and what Sheerness does, there's a big hole in this borough. But the good thing is we're giving identity and a voice to the people of Merston, Kemsley, Milton, Grove Park, Halfway. We've addressed a few boundary issues. It was painful to agree these boundary changes because I believe in what they did in 1894, and these boundaries have heritage and historic relevance. But I do know there are houses that have a boundary running through them, and it really would be quite a good idea to tidy that up. So, having swallowed the fact that I hate we change these boundaries, I think this is a good set of recommendations, and I will vote for the one I don't like as well as the others. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baldock. I invite Councillor Perkins to speak.
I wasn't expecting to speak on this item, so I support the recommendations broadly. I agree with Councillor Baldock that I think in time the Town Council for Sittingbourne would have been helpful, especially during LGR and any kind of devolution that follows. I think having, as a proud parish councillor myself, having a local government which is very close to people is better for everybody in the long run. So maybe one day the people of Sittingbourne will want one. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Richard Palmer to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo what Councillor Whiting said. The staff and members have put a lot of work into this. I will be supporting it, and I agree it is a shame about Sittingbourne, but as Councillor Baldock said, it may be revisited at some time in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Thompson to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everyone involved in quite an in-depth consultation. And for me, is visiting quite a lot of small parish councils. Quite often it's just me witnessing the parish council. But in the case of Ospringe, 74 people turned up and voiced their opinions, which is great to see. And they told brilliant stories about how they felt about their spirit of place. And it was great to see that that's been listened to and the boundaries are staying as they are. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I open up the debate for members. Councillor Tony Winklis.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be supporting this recommendation. Milton Regis, after a lot of work that went on in Milton Regis, basically, though it's a small percentage of 1, 2, 3 that people that want it, the majority have said, the ones that bother to answer the questionnaires are in favour. So I will be supporting this and to go through tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Terry Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, but I've sort of spoken earlier, so I'm okay now. But thank you very much.
You'd ask to speak.
Yeah.
Councillor Ben Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I echo all the thanks that's gone to the officers and other members of the working group. Just thinking of those that are watching online and have read the papers, they might have some queries as to why we've made some of the recommendations. So let's make it very clear. In terms of consultation response, the last borough that went out in Kent, our neighbouring borough in Maidstone, managed a grand total of 599 responses to their borough-wide consultation. We got nearly 3 times that. They went and sent letters out to everybody, and they still couldn't get anywhere near what we got. So this is probably one of our best engagements with the consultation that we've had, certainly in my time here. I know that there are some queries because in some cases, it appears on paper that we've gone against what people have said. One of the things the working group took into account was distance from and whether people actually live in the area that are responding. So I will take the Ospringe case in point. Yes, for the boundary of Ospringe and Faversham, very much so. It was people living in Ospringe that were saying no. But equally, those same people said no to every other option that was on Faversham as well, which sort of distorted the views of actual residents of that area, and the same for residents of Bourton and in places on the island. And I do share the disappointment that we didn't get the response we would have wanted from Sittingbourne. I do think that further down the road, the residents of the urban area of Sittingbourne may well regret that. But on the positive side, for Milton Regis, you'll be reclaiming your place as the important part, and Sittingbourne being your suburb once again, as it was in history. And I'm sure you will write to the train station and ask them to rename it Milton Regis for Sittingbourne, and perhaps even the Carnival Committee and ask them to rename it Milton Regis and Sittingbourne District rather than Sittingbourne. But jokes aside, it's been a really good, thorough process. That's been well done by the working group, by the officers in particular, and I think we've come to the conclusions that the public have said they want, and that's what's reflected in the paper, so we'll have my full support.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Kieran Mishtock.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support the recommendations. It's been a lot of work putting this together, and I have to say that I've really enjoyed this. I've really enjoyed reading a lot of the stories, particularly from those in Milton who've responded to the consultation with in wards that are in Chalkwell, particularly because this is the first time that Milton's actually regained some of its official territory, and I'm very proud of that actually. And it's funny that Councillor Martin brought up the train station, because that is actually something I was thinking about. I think it might be a good idea to contact whoever names the train stations and bring back Sittingbourne and Milton Regis as the official train station name as it once was. So thank you for everyone who's put work into this. It's been a really good exercise. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ashley Wise.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. When this review was announced and there would be a working group, I jumped at the opportunity to take one of the spots for my group. I insisted that nobody else take one of those spots because I really enjoy all the working groups I'm on. But being serious, I really did enjoy being a part of this working group because from the outset, as Councillor Whiting said, a crucial part of what we set out to do was to listen to and respond to the consultation responses. And that's exactly what we've done. And that's why, as I said at Policy and Resources, I think it would be a huge mistake to have gone past those responses that we received in Sittingbourne to recommend something over the heads of those that took the time to respond to this consultation. That's not to say that I don't share the view that I think it is a missed opportunity. I wish that we were able to recommend something different. As people have said, people do refer to what goes on in Faversham as if it happens by accident. It doesn't. It happens through hard work, and it happens because there are people that put themselves forward with a vision for that area, that have a real sense of place and what they want it to be. And I still believe that there could be an opportunity for Sittingbourne in the future, which is why I thought it was so important, and when we discussed this as a working group, that we protected the integrity of that Sittingbourne town centre area, because that is what people identify to be the Sittingbourne area, and to have pulled that apart and played around with that would have been a huge mistake. So it's really good to hear that the responses across the chamber this evening are that we will get behind these recommendations. And once again, I really did enjoy being a part of this working group, because I think we have shown that this council, when we bring forward proposals like this, really will listen to what people want, because we can't get this wrong when it comes to what people associate as their place and their community. So very much in support of these recommendations this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wise. Councillor Dolly Worcester.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add a couple of points. Obviously, I'm going to be in support with my other hat on, Chair of Sheerness Town Council. But I just wanted to say that even though this is the opportunity for these areas to carve out their own individual niche in terms of their town or parish council, actually, some of the bigger benefits of being part of a town or parish is the ability to work together between areas and really look at some of the local objectives that this council, Swellborough Council, and possibly KCC cannot achieve. There are real opportunities available for doing really micro-local work and pulling the community together. I also just wanted to quickly add that obviously towns and parishes are sometimes the only voices of residents that come forward. I've been on many planning meetings where, for example, the town or parish is the only response from the local community to planning activities. And actually, for my own benefit, I know Councillor Gibson will absolutely attest to this, that the first time I ever had anything to do with planning that wasn't in objection to something that was happening in my backyard was in representation at Minster Parish Council. And there's an absolute opportunity for all of those areas to use time to network, to really expand the opportunities and horizons of these local areas on a bigger stage. And now, with the unitary formation, they will have hopefully the opportunity to speak into things more directly, like social care, like education, things like that. So this could be a real potential opportunity for lots of people. And I thoroughly, as this is a public meeting, absolutely advocate for local people to step forward when in time I will be supporting. So I'm going to say this and hope that everybody will be supporting, that when potential elections are placed and held, that people do step forward and support this plan to make these new town and parish councils potentially and other recommendations really positive work in the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bowen, do you wish to speak?
As the seconder of the original recommendations, yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I went onto this working group initially as with my fellow councillor James Hunt as one of the. James was one that was likely to be the more affected by the proposals, and I was going to be the one that was probably lesser, if at all, affected. So we went in with a sort of a balanced idea behind it. And now we've come out at the end of it, and actually turns out that for my residents in Tong, they've actually increased by almost quadruple the size of residents. So that's a great thing for Tong Parish Council. But certainly learned that during the time of looking at the group that... Oh, shut up, you silly bike out there! Sorry. Get a grip! I've lost my train of thought now. That's something that's spending hours looking at maps and where lines of parishes are could be so mind-numbingly delightful during the course of the evening. And we've got to this point now which I think is actually a really, really good place to be. I empathise, whichever is the right phrase, about Sindal Town Council. I agree. I think it is a wrong decision. But that's the decision that the people told us, and we are the elected representatives of the people. That's what they said. That's what we've got to follow through with. And my closing thing is, as I said, we've said about the work of the working group, but also the chairman actually holding it all together and doing a brilliant job over those meetings. Not easy when you're looking at silly o'clock during the evening and minutiae details of where that is and what that person said. He kept control of it. He's done a really good job. So I take my applause, Mike, as well as Mike Whiting and Mike Ball as the vice chair for his handling of this and getting us to this point. So fully endorse the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Whiting to respond if he wishes.
Just thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just very briefly, just to thank members for their comments. I also forgot to thank Sarah, one of our officers, who produced the most amazing number of dot maps that showed us where every single one of those thousands of responses emanated from, which guided us very well in our discussions and how we would then treat those recommendations. We've heard, though, that all areas, I think, will be slightly smaller fish in much bigger sea once the new authority is born. And it is, therefore, I think, very important that we're going down this road of trying to create new parish councils to give that local voice. And I share the views about Sittingbourne. It's unfortunate, but we went where we followed the evidence, as Councillor Wise has said. I'd also like to thank the members and the officers who delivered thousands of leaflets. We did that. There were, for those areas that were affected, we did deliver thousands of leaflets to individual homes to try to ensure that we reached everybody that we could reach. And I'd forgotten to thank those. And of course, thank all the people that responded. And finally, Mr. Mayor, I do hope, and it's been touched on, but I do hope that when we make our recommendations to government and in regard of their next set of questions over the local government reorganisation, that we recommend to them that the parish and town council elections do take place next year, as was originally planned, and then therefore thereafter run concurrently with the new Mid-Kent Authority. And I think that will be the fair and right thing to do, and not to delay the town and parish council elections past May next year. So I beg to move. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Whiting. Right, all those in favour, please raise their hands. Any against? Any abstentions? One abstention. So that is carried. Want me to go out? No. Just going to have a 2-minute adjournment. Item 12, local plan review, regulation 19 consultation launch. I've received this letter addressed to me and the leader. I'm writing on behalf of the Western Residents and Councillors Forum as at our meeting on the 2nd of July 2026, the following was agreed: that Western Councillors and Residents Forum utterly condemn the decision by Swale Borough Council to include Bobbin Garden Village as a strategic option in the local plan. Residents and councillors at a meeting felt strongly that the building of 2,500 houses would have a disadvantage impact on the rural area surrounding the village and infrastructure. It was a vote of the residents and councillors and majority supported that the proposal to write this letter, which they have requested, be read out at full council by the mayor, which I have done. Is that okay? Now I can get on with it. I invite the leader to speak and propose the recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And once again, I stand here feeling quite a fraud when I look at the amount of work that the PTPWG and officers have put into actually bringing this to fruition and getting it to the shape that we're able to present it here tonight. The report sets out the background to recommendations made by both the PTPWG during its meeting in June and the Policy Resources Committee on the 13th of July with regard to the start of the Local Plan Regulation 19 consultation. The purpose of those reports was to present in draft form the Reg 19 local plan, the sustainability appraisal, the habitat regulations assessment and the infrastructure delivery plan. The also recommendation at both of those meetings was to recommend the document for approval for consultation purposes. And Mr. Mayor, there are 6 recommendations. Members, you've all had those, and so I don't intend to read every single one of those out, but to sit down and let the debate begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. I invite Councillor Charles Gibson to second the recommendation and ask whether he wishes to speak now or reserve his right.
I second, and I'll reserve my right, Mr. Mayor.
I invite Councillor Lloyd Bowen to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this is one of those that's been around the houses, no pun intended, so many times, be it through the working group, through P&R, and we keep going over the same sort of substance. Is this the perfect plan? No. Is this a plan we'd individually vote for if we had a choice? No. Is this the best plan that we could probably get to as a joint council? Probably. And that makes it okay, but not ideal. It does balance out building across the entire borough, which I've been saying about for a long, long time, rather than keep concentrating. Your turn now, your turn next time, then it's yours. And then we've got to draw a line somewhere. And this maybe, hopefully, will be the line. But a lot of this could have been avoided. Back in 2019, we are years and years and years behind where we should have been because we, and I hate the phrase, dithered and delayed so many times on this that we're in the position where we are now, where we're almost backs against the wall. We've got to go forward, hell or high water. This is it, folks, even if we don't like it. It was mentioned earlier about condemning local kids to more misery in the local plan on education. But if we don't have a local plan, we're doing exactly that, because the developers will come and say, I like that spot, I'm going to build there. Don't like that spot. Oh yeah, there's a school needed there, but no. This gives us some security. So do I like it? No. Is it the best we're probably going to get? Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. I invite Councillor Baldock to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It not come as a great shock that I do not support this local plan. Councillor Bowen said we've left it to the last minute. We were in this position in October 24. We had virtually the same situation that was to go to full council. I mean, officers asked to delay it a month, the leader agreed, and we ended up with a 20-month delay. So yeah, it could have been done earlier. Not as early as 2019 though, because that was only 2 years after the Tory local plan already devastated much of Swale. And in 2019, a whole load of opposition groups wiped the Tories out, opposing their local plan, opposing the way they were dumping all these houses and not fighting against them. And for a while we did fight against them. And then we just seem to have given up. We know any local plan is not going to deliver the education and health needs that we want. We now know that by the 31st of September, we're going to have the result of a Highstead application. If that goes through, on top of this local plan, we will be recommending nearly 5,000 more houses for this borough than we need to. Is that what we stood on 2019? Is that what we stood on 2023? Is that what the people of Sittingbourne, Sheppey and Faversham actually want? More houses than we actually need? I don't think so. I think we need to pause, wait and see what happens with Highstead, and then take another look at what we've got to do. Also, as Councillor Bowen said, there have been different approaches. Yes, the Tories dumped everything in the Thames Gateway and saved Faversham, made it a special case. 13% of the housing there, 87% in the Thames Gateway. This is when we should have corrected that balance and made a fairer overall delivery across the whole borough. No, you lost your nerve and you put in the Bobbing Garden Village, one of the most atrocious, appalling planning applications this council has seen. It's going to ruin the entire west of Swale. It's going to knacker up the island. It's going to knacker up our industrial estate, especially if Highstead goes ahead. Both ends of the Eurolink will be knackered up by building and by all the road confusion that goes with it. That is going to have a huge impact on our employment. Tonight is the night we can say, let's find out what's happening. Let's not rush. Let's find out what's happening with Highstead and then decide. So no, I ain't supporting this.
I invite Councillor Richard Palmer to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I think Councillor Baldock summed it up quite well. I think we had a motion this evening about the problems on Sheppey. Well, this is going to greatly add to the problems on Sheppey. It's going to add to the problems on the 249. It's going to add to the problems in Sittingbourne. It's going to add to the problems in Swale West, all the villages around there. In fact, it's going to affect everywhere. I can't support this. I think we do need to stand up. We do need to say to government, enough is enough. We have taken such a battering from housing. Over the years, we can't take any more. Mentioned tonight about the Quinton Road School. The correction is, not that KCC doesn't want it, it's that the builders have not built the sufficient number to trigger it. And until builders build out, you'll have loads of permission all over the place, and still no housing, and still the government inspector will say, well, you're not building enough, so we're going to have it there. We should not be playing this game, and I can't support this. I feel for the people of Sheppey, and I feel for the people in Sittingbourne if this is approved. Thank you.
I invite Councillor Thompson to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For me, it's the same thing that I've spoken on many times about the NPPF. And how it delivers and how it imposes on us arbitrary numbers that are constantly ever expanding with no understanding of our geological and intricate and sort of spirited land use. it's so frustrating that we're constantly being arm behind our back to deliver housing numbers in an area that can't sustain it. We're currently at 1.9 million. It's utterly ridiculous. We must do something to try and push back on how this is done. We've got, very unusual geology in Kent. We've got one of the highest levels of grade 1, and it's just disappearing so quickly when we could build anywhere. Humans are so they've got such ingenuity. We can build a house anywhere. We shouldn't be building it on grade 1 agricultural land. Coming from a farming background and farming, it makes such a difference in terms of nutrient and delivery, calorific value, when you're farming on grade 1 than you're on grade 5. What are we doing? It's insane. And for that reason, I have to protest vote. I understand it's a lot of work. I understand where we're going with it. But for me, it shouldn't be happening. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I open up the debate for members. First one I've got is Anne Kavanagh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is incredibly difficult for me. For those of you who know where my ward is, it's very close to Bobbin. However, I was part of the PTPWG until health reasons meant I had to stand down. People have been reading 1,000 pages before the meeting. I agree with Councillor Bowen. It's not ideal, it's not great, but it's probably the best we've got. It should have been decided years ago, and it kept getting kicked into the back of beyond, and this is where we are. If we don't agree this, do you really want someone from miles away who have no knowledge of Swale deciding where everything's going to be built? I listen to all of the Highstead inquiry. I read the appeal decisions from the planning department. I see over and over again, because we do not have a local plan, things get approved. I think it's awful that it's taken this long. I was not a councillor before 2023, but a lot of you were. And I don't know why, but you just kick it down the line until here we are. If we don't get it agreed now, the government will no doubt impose higher targets when the new scheme comes through. So what are we meant to do? Stuck between a rock and a hard place, be an adult, acknowledge the hard work the people of this working group have done and made the best of a bad job.
Councillor Peter MacDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With regard to bobbing, I of course objected to that, but I was on the committee because the land at Kemsley hasn't been built on yet, so it's far too premature, quite frankly, to even think about bobbing. But of course now I believe it's now got planning, or will have planning. It's been approved, or I think that's... but anyway, it's on the plan, so I can't support this just at the moment, the whole document, because my view is that bobbing is unsuitable, frankly. There's no infrastructure. It's going to cause the most horrendous problems. Anyone can see that. The school hasn't been built at Kemsley. That's another one. Well, no wonder there's problems on Sheppey and in Sittingbourne for school numbers, because it's not there. And now that's down to the Department of Education, I presume, that they should be funding a school there. But until we know that water's running out, potable water. We had all our water wells on Sheppey closed by the Southern Water. And I know the water table on the Chalk side, because our water comes from Belmont, Faversham, the water table is actually permanently going down. So there's going to be a huge shortage of potable water, and you can't just restrict people. So I know the water company, I haven't got a lot of time for them. They tipped a load of sewage out at the other side of Queenborough into the Swale when there hadn't been any rain for months. So that was just, you know, and I believe they've just got fined for something, and I think jolly well right. So I'm, you know, I think we've got to be very careful. I'd like to postpone this at the moment until we see what happens at Highstead. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hayden Braun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to first thank all of the officers included in this. Too many to name. We have a lot of officers on the working group, and they've all done an amazing job, and they've been available before meetings to answer questions from members of the working group about certain things. I'd also like to thank Councillor Charles Gibson for chairing the committee. But other than that, this is a compromise. I think everyone could agree to that. It has some good things in there. Thanks to Councillor Speed, we have a very toughly worded water policy in there. Our other policies in there are vitally important to Swale. We are ending the unfair 0% imposition of affordable housing on Sheppey. These are all things that this council needs to stand up for. So, of course, I will be delighted to vote in favour.
Thank you. Councillor Ben Marty.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There are policies in this local plan that were developed in 2019 and 2020 when we still had a cabinet system. When cabinet members sat round and said, yeah, we really need to make sure that there's fair quantities of affordable housing delivered across the borough. We need to make sure that there is fair levels of environmental protection across the borough. Is it a perfect plan? There's no such thing as a perfect plan. If there was, we'd have done it before. As it is, you've got to take compromise. You can't dump everything in one area. We've seen that. What happens is you bottom out the market and then it doesn't get built out. That's essentially what's happened for the whole of the southeast at the moment. That's why there's not huge volumes of housing going up. We also need to make sure if we want to work with housing associations, if we want to work with affordable housing providers, there has to be a level of certainty. We have had 5 years of uncertainty. That's why they don't want to work with us. That's why they don't come here and take our stock. That's why they'd rather go to Maidstone or Ashford and deliver stock there. They've got local plans that are up to date. They know what they've got to deliver. They know how they have to deliver it. Right now, people don't for Swale. This is an opportunity to move it forward. It's something we should have done before, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. I regret that we delayed it as long as we have, and I take some of the blame for that, and I hold my hands up, and I think everybody should. This is the best we're going to get. If we try and delay and wait for the Highstead decision, officers have told us at PTPWG and at P&R, the timetable is tight as it is to have this adopted before April of 2028. So we delay it. It's not our decision anymore. It goes to Mid-Kent Council, whoever they may be. And if they're of a similar composition to the current Ashford Borough Council, they'll want that extra 5,000 houses. Because actually Ashford Borough Council has spent many years treating the delivery of housing numbers as a business for the council because it generates additional revenue. That's what they've been doing. But they won't just put it in their area. They'll look, oh, actually, you're costing us quite a bit on social care in Swale, so you need to take a bit more of the housing to pay for it. Let's make sure we've got a plan now in place that gives security to our residents, gives security to those who want to build in the area and build what we need, and actually gives a chance of our neighbourhood plans that have been developed a chance to be defended. Because at the moment, it's this lack of document that we don't have supporting it that's allowing developers to ride roughshod over national policy and over local policies that have been developed over the last few years by many places, including Bourton and Dunkirk and Faversham in terms of neighbourhood
Time,
plans.
Councillor.
So I implore everyone to support this and thank the officers and the members for their work.
Thank you. Councillor Dolly Worcester.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm not a planning person. I don't sit on planning. I have a little bit to do with town and parish input with regard to responses for planning applications. But I think it's really important to take into consideration what it's like to live in an area where speculative development just turns up all the time. And it does. And I've had many opportunities to speak for various parish councils when you put in such a lot of hard work. There's such a lot of reasons why communities have identified that perhaps it isn't right for them. But because we haven't got an up-to-date local plan, because there is a lack of that, it's always an uphill struggle. Very few things land, should I say, because the lack of a local plan means that areas that have been pointed for speculative development are always going to suffer. And actually, what we're actually identifying is that in areas of deprivation, which the island has a number of, we do not have the right amount of housing. We have overcrowding in areas. We do not have rented property that comes in at less than £1,400 a month for private rented accommodation, where every single school holiday I'm in the alleyways reporting fly tipping, where families cannot afford the rent of these properties, therefore do a bit of a flit, leave half their worldly goods behind and have no choice but to up and leave. That is not a community. That is not where children can provide roots, where families can provide homes for long-term stay. We need to do something differently. And absolutely, do I agree with every little thing that's in this plan? No, I don't. And I doubt everybody in this room will agree with every little thing within this plan. But I've seen what a difference speculative development makes. And in my opinion, it's not that great. I also want to see social housing on Sheppey. I also want to see affordable homes on Sheppey. I want to see accommodation coming forward that is fit for the need of different abilities in my community as well. And I think this local plan is a step in that direction. I completely agree with Councillor Martin. I don't want to get to the new council makeup and have Swale as an area that doesn't come to the table ready to fight for what its residents need, because we haven't got a local plan under our belt. I think that is our strongest way forward when we're going on a bigger stage, and I do think it is a mistake not to accept that we need to push forward with this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ashley Wise.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I think we can all agree that the whole approach to house building in this country has been wrong for more than a generation, and the damage and harm that was inflicted on so many of our communities through Right to Buy is still with us today. And there are, whatever shade of party or government has been in, nobody is willing to confront the fundamental change that's needed within this, and the rebalancing of the economy that would fundamentally mean that we're not constantly chasing this issue about ambitious housing targets in the southeast. And I think there's a cautionary tale for all of us in the room when we talk about delaying further, because each time we do that, there are new targets, new formulas, new MPPFs, new planning reforms that constantly conspire against what it is we were all saying, you know, 1 election cycle ago, 2 election cycles ago, 10 election cycles ago. Because if you sit around and wait, everything else moves around us. And with LGR and with other government planning reforms coming through, we know from debating this at PNR and all the debates that colleagues have had at PTPWG that we don't have the luxury of delaying this any longer. So it really isn't something that we wanted to be getting behind in the way that we're now compelled to do so. But we cannot hold this up any longer. We just can't. And you know, there's lots that we'd rather be doing totally differently if we were just given free rein and the government wasn't there telling us from consecutive governments what we need to be doing with this. So if we just keep pushing this off, the landscape will shift yet further around us, and I don't think we can afford to do that any longer.
Thank you. Councillor Mike Whitey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's a difficult thing to stand or sit and whatever and agree something that we all know deep in our hearts is kind of wrong. But the end of the line comes very soon. The government have said very clearly that we need to move forward with this, and if we don't move forward quite quickly, then we'll lose the ability, for example, to impose our local planning policies, because government plan to take that power away from us under the new plans. So there is a timetable. Now our backs really are up against the wall. Very often with these things, you're guided by officers as to what you have to do to meet the requirements of planning law. And I've been really encouraged that the PTPWG, and I've probably got that wrong, members have stood up to some of that. You know, we've changed the green spaces that are being recommended. We've added more green spaces than we were told that we should. Thanks to Councillor Speed, we have much tougher policies on water provision now that developers will have to meet. We've got new SPD and new planning policy on HMO development. A whole range of things that we've managed as members of that and throughout the council, members to input and make this a better plan than it might otherwise have been. But for all of that, it's still not perfect. Of course it's not, but our backs are against the wall. And if we don't move forward with this now, we will find ourselves in a much worse position, I believe, in the new year, when new regulations come in and we find that we have no control over much of the things that we're still clinging on to. So it is with regret that I'll be voting for this. There's an enormous amount of work, and Stuart and others that have put the officers that have done the work, and we all, you know, members of the working group that have sat through those 1,000-page agendas, and thanks and tribute to Councillor Charles Gibson for again steering us through as chair, getting us through those agendas. And I don't think we had to suspend standing orders. We just carried on till midnight, didn't we? It's not perfect by any means, but in the time that government have given us, I think it's the best approach that we can make. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Peter Marchington.
Yes, thank you, Chair. We've been pushing this around since 2014. You know, and when and of course that in a national planning policy framework has to be reviewed every 7 years. So 2000 the regulation 18 was what was put forward, and that's what we've been banning and altering and pushing it around. And that regulation 18 that we didn't vote on it then. It's been pushed forward to everyone. They've done all the work, but really, as other speakers already said, we're now into regulation 19, which is only the year after. This was our last stand to try and alter what should have happened in the submission regulation 18. So, and if we don't go with this, we will lose, as other speakers always said, and we'll lose the right to even have our say in anything. I'll say no more than that. I need to say the many things I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? No. Right, I invite Councillor Charles Gibson to speak now.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I'll start by thanking residents for their engagement, but also members for their very thorough engagement and commitment to this process. It has been a deeply, deeply involved process. Thank you to all the officers and all the members who've contributed to that. We heard in the last item about the joys of a working group where you get to spend lots of time playing with maps, and to those members I can heartily recommend joining PTPWG. We have just as much fun and arguably more maps. I want to thank all those members who contributed, particularly Councillor Whiting, Councillor Kavanagh, Councillor Martin, Councillor Worcester, all of whom I agree with wholeheartedly. I also agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Thompson and Councillor Wise. The NPPF is broadly rubbish, but this is basically the best plan we can deliver within the deeply flawed rules. Councillor Martin, who is much more expert than I on this topic, has handed me a post-it note that says in the first half of the 20th century, the government spent £20 billion delivering social homes. In the second half, it made 65 billion selling them off, and that is criminal. But this is the best we can do within that system, sadly. Councillor Baldock knows we disagree about what we were elected to deliver in 2023, and he knows well enough, as we've outlined by other people, that the delays we are proposing here cannot be accepted. So we have to go with the plan as it is at this time. And I want to talk about the build-out rate as raised by Councillor Palmer. He is absolutely correct. The build-out rate is a real problem. It is why housing is slowing, the sales are slowing in Faversham now due to the excessive build-out. It is why a fairer spread borough plan is the only possible way of delivering our 5-year housing land supply, because Faversham will not build those houses in 5 years. It simply cannot support that market. It will not happen, and this is the only way we can achieve that. I want to talk a little bit about the risks not doing this as posed. My residents in Faversham have seen, after 5 years working on the neighbourhood plan alongside the Town Council, and have that run roughshod over what not having a local plan does to residents. We heard only this week what not having a local plan has done to the irreplaceable nature of Ham Marshes and the residents who depend on that green space. It is a dereliction of duty for us to not push ahead with this. The Western Councillors and Residents Forum are, I know, joined by Faversham Town Council. I spoke the objection to the Duchy myself. We know this plan is a compromise. It is not what local people want in every aspect. It has to be a compromise, and there will be developments we don't love in it, but it is the only way we can deliver what we need for our borough going forward. And it does deliver some remarkable things. A playing field strategy that will give us a hockey pitch in the borough for the first time in decades. More football pitches for those junior teams that so desperately need them. Affordable homes delivered on the island and in Sittingbourne for the first time in a decade. And, thanks to Councillor Speed, genuinely class-leading water sustainability policies. We should be rightly very proud of that. So I want to take this moment to thank all the members who've engaged with PTBWG, the huge number of office hours that went into it, and a special thanks to Councillor Braun, who was very ably vice-chaired during my absences, particularly the mammoth session that led us to this motion. I commend the motion and thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I invite the leader to respond if he wishes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think everything that should have been said has been said. And I will just reiterate, we need to push ahead with this. If we don't, it'll be too late. The bus will have left the stop and we'll be left standing behind. Thank you.
Can I have a recorded vote, please, Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Yeah, 5 people.
Recorded vote.
Yeah, we got 5. Okay, we're ready for the recorded vote.
Somebody.
Right, Councillor Charles Gibson.
4.
Councillor Dolly Worcester.
4.
Councillor Julian Speed. 4. Councillor Lloyd Bowen.
4.
Councillor Peter Marchington.
4.
Councillor Tom Nunday.
Against.
Councillor Ashley Wise.
4.
Councillor Charlie Miller.
4.
Councillor Karen Watson.
4.
Councillor Rich Lehman.
Abstain.
Thank you. Councillor Tony Winklis.
4.
Councillor Andy Booth.
4.
Councillor Ben Martin.
4.
Councillor Chris Palmer.
Against.
Councillor Hannah Perkins.
4.
Councillor Kieran Golding.
4.
Councillor Mark Last.
4.
Councillor Paul Stevens.
4.
Councillor Richard Palmer.
Against.
Councillor Angela Harrison.
Just say Ange.
No.
4.
Councillor Carol Jackson.
4.
Councillor Hayden Braun.
4.
Karen, Korean Mustook.
Against.
Against. Pete Neal.
Abstain.
Councillor Terry Thompson. Against. Councillor Anne Kavanagh.
4.
Councillor Kerry Pollard.
Against.
Myself. 4. Councillor Leanne Moore.
Abstain.
Councillor Mike Baldock.
Against.
Councillor Peter MacDonald.
Against.
Councillor Sarah Stevens.
4.
Councillor Tim Gibson.
4. Thank you.
8 against and 3 abstentions. Everyone else scored.
8, yeah. 8. 3 abstentions. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, I didn't vote, but I wasn't asked to.
Sorry.
He's been missed. Apologies.
I do apologise, you're not on my list.
No, you're not.
But
Everyone.
Can't vote.
so you can have a vote.
Well, I'm much obliged, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. It's worth turning up. I'm going to vote 4.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think 23, 8 and 3.
Right.
23, 8.
3. Right. The results are 23-4, 8 against, and 3 abstentions. So that is carried. Thank you. At 21:45, I now close the meeting. If anyone would like to come in and partake in some cold beer and snack.